Hi guys, hola, bienvenidos otra vez. Welcome again to my channel. In today's video, we are looking at answering the past paper January 2011. We are looking specifically at the directed situations. So let us first be reminded of the instructions, right? So these situations here are not to be translated, and you are not to write more than one sentence. That's the most important thing to remember here. So let's get into it. Now, I want to just make mention that language is fluid. Language, varies from country to country. So sometimes you may learn a phrase that belongs to one country, another country may not understand it, or it may not be as common in another country. So you have to, keep researching, reading. I recommend using word reference. Word reference gives you a holistic list of translations. It also gives you like the country it comes from or the country it is used in. So it helps you to understand the sayings, the expressions, the phrases, whatnot. So what I'm going to do here is give you some suggested responses, but of course, we have to pay attention to the function or the notion that they are asking us or asking for in each situation. So just in case if you don't know what I'm talking about, each of these situations here require a certain function or a certain notion. So you need to understand what they want from you, and then you can get into answering. Also, like I was about to say, because language is fluid, there are going to be a variety of ways or a variety of answers to each one of these questions. So what I'm doing here is not the only response. You can say what you want, or you can say it how you want, but once you are answering the cue, or sorry, well, answering or satisfying rather the function, then you are on the right track. So you are alone at your friend's home in Caracas and need to leave the house. Write a note you leave telling your friend of your whereabouts. So this is basically giving information or informing. So I'm informing my friend that I need to leave the house. Now, you do not have to literally say, I need to leave the house. I am going to the supermarket. I'll return 5 o'clock. It didn't really say anything about returning time. It just says about your whereabouts. You do not need to give any sort of long explanation. We already know the situation, so we're just going to say something like, fui al supermercado. Or if you want to say, Carlos, salí para ir a la farmacia. So any one of those things could work. So let me put it on the screen. So I'm giving you two options here. And you will notice that my responses are very short because we want to try to keep our responses short. We want to try to keep our responses in one sentence and not too long. We don't want to explain too much because that's not what we are asked to do here. Like I said, like the instruction says, rather a short phrase is fine, of course, once it satisfies the function. Your neighbor wants to sell his car and requests your help to make a sign. What does a sign say? Now, making a sign in Spanish is very simple. There's about three ways that or three phrases or expressions that you can use. So all it says here is, what does a sign say? So when I sell a car, what do you usually see on a car or a sign? Sorry, that when a car is for sale, you may see something like for sale, and then you would see a number, right? So for sale in Spanish, like I was saying, you can use three expressions. So you can say something like carro en venta, right? Of course, you have to pay attention to your punctuation marks. Carro en venta, that is one way. Another way you can use is se vende, right? Se vende auto or carro or coche. right? Say vende, or you could also say, so I'll put coche. I'll use auto. Or you can say something like coche a la venta. So these are the three ways that you can say for sale in Spanish. And of course, if you want to put a number, you can put a number next to that. So let's just say you choose one, coche a la venta. You say llame because you're writing using the command form and the formal command form. Llame, and you just put a number. Right? Depending on your country, you could put the code if you want. All right, so your school has embarked on a Spanish awareness campaign. Write one important school rule you wish to post on the notice board. Now, guys, these questions here are just asking for one sentence. So one school rule. So just use something very simple. Make use of the vocabulary that you know, the vocabulary you have at hand. When you are practicing for the exam, yes, you can use word reference, get some words. Try to be simple with your language and let it flow smoothly, right? But you want to try to use the words you already have. And if you need one or two words, yeah, you can go and check on word reference. So what is the one important school rule? So, this is the part where children always say, I don't know what to write. I mean, think about your own school, think about your situation. So, if you have to write, let me see, a school rule, you would say students should wear their uniforms at all times, or their uniform rather, at all times, right? Because that's something that you obviously, that's a rule, right? So the function here is basically stating information. And number two, the function was, it would have just been advertising or writing an announcement, giving information as well, right? So this one here would more or less be stating information, giving information, because you're just stating what the school rule is, right? So you literally use the verb. So for the students who are accustomed using the verb deber, and I have a video up on that, you could use the verb deber plus the infinitive to bring out a point here, or you could use the phrase no se permite or no se permiten, depending on what you're talking about. So if I were to use the very simple structure with the verb, I can say los estudiantes, they should wear, so deben llevar su uniforme escolar. Now, these are vocabulary that you should know, right? So, los estudiantes deben llevar su uniforme escolar en todo momento. This means at all times, right? Another suggestion or another response would be, and I'm just writing it underneath number 4 here, no se permiten, because I'm going to talk about teléfonos, right? So no se permiten teléfonos celulares en la escuela. So this is basically saying that cell phones are not allowed or they are not permitted at school. So any one of these rules will work. Now, you would notice something, right? If I were to remove this here, I just want to remove the first two because I want to just show you one thing. If I were to just remove that and I just left coche a la venta, right? Llame. Now, very important point. Once you put a full stop, if it's two short phrases, they wouldn't say anything. But if it's a long sentence, once you put a full stop, they're gonna stop marking, right? So be very careful with your punctuation. So look at the difference in answers. Look at the difference in length. So this is a very short response here, as opposed to this one here, which is long, or even as opposed to this one, which is a bit longer than this one, right? you will get a mixture of responses like that, even if I were to just use fui al supermercado, right? So you're seeing the difference in length, and that's how it's going to be at times. You're going to have situations that require maybe one phrase, one or two phrases, and then you're going to meet situations where it's going to be a long explanation. So that's why I say keep the language very simple. So I'm just going to remove this for space. Right? So like I said, no se permiten teléfonos celulares en la escuela. So that's this one. Number 4, Anita has invited you to the movies, but you would prefer to do something else. Respond to email suggesting an alternative activity. Now, when it comes to suggesting or recommending, and you use those verbs like recomendar or sugerir, you have to use subjunctive. Many of times students don't know how to use the subjunctive. So there are a couple of ways that you could avoid using the subjunctive. So you can say things like, just to get the accent, I'm just going to type in words. I'll put it over here in a second. So I'll tell you the English, right? So it's like saying, why don't we? So you say, ¿por qué no? Right? ¿Por qué no? It's like, why don't we do this instead? So Anita invited you to the movies, but you don't want to go, you prefer to do something else. So why don't we um, go to the mall instead? So you can say something like that. You can ask a question. So why don't we go to the mall instead? ¿Por qué no vamos al centro comercial? So just because of time, I'm just typing it in my Word document, so it gives me all the correct punctuation, accents, everything one time. ¿Por qué no vamos al centro comercial? Why don't we go to the mall? And the instead is kind of already in that there, right? The por qué no plus the regular conjugation, so which is called indicative. It's already embedded. The meaning is already in that. This is a very simple way. So, ¿por qué no vamos al centro comercial? All right. Or if you want to just be plain and outright, you can say, no quiero, but it's going to be a bit longer, right? No quiero ir al cine, prefiero ir al centro comercial. That's not a problem. You could say that, but it's going to be a bit longer, right? Now you could do that when you have verbs like the hint here is prefer, right? Preferir. But what if you don't have that option? Then what would you use? Sometimes I see students using no me interesa. So you can say things like no me interesa el cine. And they would say things like debemos, debemos ir al centro comercial o deberíamos ir al centro comercial. So I'm just thinking on the spot of some different things that you can see. But I really like this form here because it really helps you to formulate responses when it comes to suggesting and recommending. Your aunt is going away for a week and you promise to look after her. She has left a note to remind you of something you must do. So something you must do. I mean, it's very clear here. You can use the verb deber or tener que plus the infinitive. Again, check out that video, guys, because it will help you, especially for this. So far, you have seen me use deber. You can use tener que plus infinitive, necesitar plus infinitive, querer plus infinitive. You could also use poder plus infinitive. These things help you to bring out the function without complicating the language. So, um, your aunt is going away for a week and you promise to look after her dog. She has left you not to remind you of something you must do. So, I mean, something very simple like don't forget, right? So, if you want to say like don't forget to feed the dog. And we could even add something there like don't forget to feed the dog every evening. Right? So let me just put it here. because it's for a week, right? For a week, she's going away. No olvides alimentar al perro todas las noches. So, no olvides is the command form, and then alimentar to feed al perro. Remember, we use the personal a after verbs when there is an object, or when the object rather is a person or domesticated animal, right? So, alimentar al perro todas las noches. That is fine. I think that in a case like this, she's reminded you of something, and I would have mentioned you can use the bed, but I'm rethinking that because if you use the bed here, I feel as it will be a little strong, and you could say like, no olvides que tienes que alimentar al perro, but then that doesn't really, it just basically expands the sentence. So just use no olvides alimentar. Don't forget to feed the dog. The one with tener would just like literally translate as don't forget that you have to feed the dog every evening. So if you use that, not a problem. It's just sentence going to be a little longer. You need your father's permission to go somewhere, but he's away. Write an email requesting his approval. So you're making a request. So let's see how we're formulating this one, right? So you need his permission to go somewhere, but he's away. So you have to actually ask permission. So can I go? And it could be very simple. So you can say like that, right? Can I go to the beach with my friends this weekend? Right? Puedo ir con mis amigos este fin de semana. Right, so you're asking, ¿puedo ir a la playa con mis amigos este fin de semana? Right, so a lot of these, a lot of these situations, I am being very simple. And the vocabulary I'm using is something that you already know to do. Well, puedo plus infinitive a la playa con mis amigos este fin de semana. And for those of you who would have done the um the speaking courses with me for oral examination, you would have remembered the techniques I taught you all when you're preparing for speaking. It's basically the same technique or the knowledge that you would have learned through that program. You can apply some of that here. Puedo ir a la playa con mis amigos este fin de semana because there is nothing really else, right? We're just asking for his approval, requesting his approval, and this seems to be fine. There's a problem with your new cellular phone and you have taken it back to the store, right? Provide, a written explanation of the problem to the salesperson. So the first thing that comes to my mind here is no funciona bien. It doesn't work well. So we need to think about what doesn't work well. Or, I mean, whatever problem you can come up with if it's not connecting to the internet. We have so many issues with phone in these times. So the screen is broken, but then again, it says there's a problem with your new phone. Let's think. I would say something like the speaker is not working well because, like I said, I like the phrase no funciona bien. And this gives you an opportunity to learn vocabulary because I'm not too sure if you know speaker. So speakers are basically parlantes del teléfono. Los parlantes del teléfono no funcionan bien. So the phone speakers are not working well. So that is the explanation as to what is the problem. And the person, the sales clerk can obviously understand that. You send an email to your teacher, and one of the things, let me just explain this immediately. When it says email, this gets students confused. It's not an actual email with querido or querida, and then you're writing, ¿Cómo estás? Espero que estés bien. No. It's just there. They just use the word email, You just have to remember it's one sentence or a phrase when necessary, or two short phrases, or two short sentences. So you send an email to your teacher explaining, so explanation, right? Why your group project is not finished, what is the reason? So explanation with a reason. So we have two functions here. So the project is not finished, so we're explaining why. What reason do you give? So you're explaining given the reason, basically, right? So we could say el proyecto. So el proyecto no está terminado. It's not completed. If you want, you could put like yet, which is aún. We can put as in front of the no. So el proyecto aún no está terminado. ¿Por qué? What reason do we give? Because, porque, wanted to keep it simple, right? The other members did not contribute, but that's taken us into some higher vocabulary because two members were sick, yeah, because two members, we could say two students, if they don't know the word miembros, we could use estudiantes. So, or alumnos, two students were sick. So, dos estudiantes estaban enfermos. So, I think this is the first one we are actually using the past tense, right? So, el proyecto aún no está terminado porque dos estudiantes estaban enfermos. I think it's fine. It's a bit long, but it's fine, right? It's very clear. We have satisfied both functions. We are explaining why it's not finished, and we have satisfied the function. Yeah. You would like to interview a celebrity who's visiting your city. Write him an email explaining why you need to interview him. So you don't have to say, well, I would like to interview you, and get into too much details, right? I want to interview, or even if you say, and I would like to interview you, we just keep the reason very short, right? Now, the word for interview, which always pops up, is entrevista, which you should get accustomed with, or you should know. So, entrevista. La entrevista es importante, the interview is important para animar a los cantantes de la escuela. So the interview is important to, encourage the singers in the school. Or what if it's a celebrity, right? So we could probably say that. For this interview, esta entrevista. You can use motivar as well, to motivate. Right? So let me see if this makes sense. Esta entrevista es importante para motivar a los cantantes de escuela. Well, esta escuela, lo siento. Yeah, esta escuela. Or even if you say mi escuela, los cantantes de mi escuela. Because they didn't say school, so we want to make it about the school. So de mi escuela, yeah. So we will work with this for number 9. Esta entrevista es importante para motivar a los cantantes de mi escuela. Right? You'd like to interview a celebrity visiting your city, write an email explaining why you need to interview him or her. I think that's fine. And last one, you have disappointed your best friend. Write a note of apology or write an email, apologizing for what you have done. So apologizing for what you have done. So we want to say, I am sorry, and then you want to say for what, right? So we could say, I'm sorry that I went to the mall without you. I'm sorry that I siento. I am sorry that I will go with that because that is what's coming to my mind, and I think that I will be disappointing. I am sorry that oh, the phrase I want to say, like, I'm sorry that I went to the mall, might be a little advanced. So let me see if I can say something differently. Because you'd have to use like a bed, right? Siento haber ido. So what I'm thinking is siento haber ido al centro comercial sin ti. So I'm sorry that I went to the mall without you, but I'm going to try to make my responses very simple so that everyone can understand the grammatical structures we use. Also, this gives me the perfect opportunity to just explain something to you. So, usually we use lo siento, which is a phrase that means I'm sorry, right? Or lo lamento. Now, lo siento or lo lamento is used with an explanation, right? So, for example, lo siento, no voy a hacerlo otra vez. So, I'm sorry, I'm not going to do it again. But siento and lamento, we use it with infinitives. Like, for example, what I'm going to give you in response to this. So, your friend is disappointed because you did not. I am going to use a different situation to what I had suggested just now, because that would have been like I said, a grammatical structure that perhaps many of you may not understand how to use. So we would use siento, no, and then the infinitive, right? So no hacer mi parte de la tarea de español. Accents show up. Yes. So siento no hacer mi parte de la tarea de español. Right? So I'm sorry for not doing my part, or I'm sorry I didn't do my part of the Spanish homework. Okay, so this is just an example. Like I said, again, we use lo siento, lo lamento with an explanation, in which the verb is usually conjugated, and we use siento or lamento with the infinitive. So this is basically just a structure you need to know. So these are my responses or my suggested responses. Like I said, guys, language is fluid, and sometimes there are going to be differences, there are going to be variations. If you have any questions, you can comment. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and share with your friends or anyone that is doing Spanish. And again, you can check me out on Facebook, check out my page on Facebook, Spanish with Professor Puran, as well as there's a Facebook group that you can join, CSEC Spanish, for more information. Until our next video, buena suerte, adios, chao.